So Bob emails. It feels like it's been a long time since we've podcasted, but it hasn't been that long since we podcasted. Just a couple weeks, I think.
Weeks, yeah.
But it feels like a long time to me. Why is that?
Time flows slower when you get older. No, that's not true.
That's the opposite, yeah. Anonymous long-term patron and YouTube member from Delaware. She says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk and Bob. I have been with my spouse for over 10 years. We have built a very safe feeling and supportive relationship where we are where we are each other's safe place when life gets hard. He makes me feel loved for exactly who I am. I struggle with balancing this safe supportedness for him and his emotions while also holding him accountable for his inaction towards his goals in life." So she wants to hold him accountable for his inaction. "My husband has severe depression and anxiety, and he suffers greatly every day. He is in therapy and takes medication to help. Unfortunately, those things alone are not enough to cure his mental health. He has expressed wanting to build more of a foundation of health to help himself get better, like losing weight, reducing his stress, and establishing healthy habits like exercising regularly. But it has been 5 years, and he hasn't started to work on these things." So to recap, depression, anxiety, medication, therapy. He's expressed an interest in doing things to improve his emotional and physical health, but it's been 5 years and he hasn't done those things. "As someone who struggles with more mild manifestations of the same conditions, I'm really sympathetic to his lack of energy, and I try my best to be supportive in moments where he makes the opposite choice to his goals. Basically, I will hold him in those moments and tell him that I love him. I just want him to be happy and healthy and that he means a lot to me. But I often find myself wondering if I'm enabling rather than supporting him by holding so much space for the shame and sadness that he feels about not making any progress. Should I be more firm about what I expect from him? Is that even fair? I am so worried about his health because he means so much to me. I've expressed this to him, and when I do, he responds with guilt and sadness. Then I feel the need to soothe him in return, and ultimately we never address my need, which is that I need him to take care of himself so that we can have a healthy and long-lasting partnership. The overfunctioner in me wants to make him an Excel spreadsheet of tasks with a schedule and demand that he follow it, but I have resisted that urge so far, haha. So I think that's her sprinkling in like, look, I understand that I'm an overfunctioner. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm looking forward to hearing your take on my situation, Kirk and Bob. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, that's wow. One of the thoughts I had is I'm not sure I buy I want us to have a long and healthy life together. I don't think that's actually the motivation that a person I wonder if she's really saying something about now and using the future as a bargaining chip. So my guess is it's very frustrating now, and she feels completely powerless to actually get a change to happen, which of course she is powerless to get a change to happen. So I wonder about couple therapy, but I don't think that couple therapy is, here's what I thought. I thought, well, she could level with them. Like, what exactly is the impact of in the now when my husband is so passive? And it seems to me that that's the thing that she has the most problem with, is that he takes no action, and there's some reason that pisses her off. Maybe it makes her feel like she's alone in the relationship and that she's doing all the heavy lifting. These are all speculations, of course, because she didn't really say this stuff. She didn't say the spreadsheet thing, so that makes me think that, she feels like she's alone. It won't work to, crowbar him, and she knows that. It won't work to crowbar him, to try to crowbar him.
Is that a phrase that you use, crowbar?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Into some kind of change. But I often think about attachment injury with this sort of thing, and I don't know that it will have an impact that leads them towards, leads her towards her, ostensible goal, at least, of having him be more active. But I can't help but wonder what would happen if she were able to express directly, this is the impact that you have on me, and not the pissed off part of things, but the other thing. Like, is it some kind of weirdo projective identification, like where she wishes that she could not have to be in control or be at the, at the mantle of the thing or something? I don't know. That's all speculation too.
Right. Anger at, another angle to projective identification is anger at an inner, quote unquote, lazy person.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So one wonders about that. I probably have more I would say about it, but right now, off the top of my head, that's what I got.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the first thing I'll say, similar to your sentiment, is that depression is fucking rough.
Oh, man, is it rough.
It's the worst.
It is.
Long-standing treatment-resistant depression is the worst.
Yeah.
And to be a spouse of someone with long-term treatment-resistant depression is not as worse, but also very bad.
Yeah, you're in the blast radius.
Yeah. And it's a known phenomenon that for people who suffer from chronic depression, even if it's on and off, their spouses are, for lack of a better term, are dragged down with them.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle. And it's nearly, if not totally universal, that a loving spouse will have thoughts like this of, remember last month when you were getting up at the same time and you were exercising and you felt better and you were eating better and you were in a better mood, and now you're not even getting out of bed, and when you do, you just stare at your phone and you don't interact with us. We're all tiptoeing around you. You're not abusive, but you're just like in a bad mood. You don't seem to enjoy what we're doing. We had these plans, and now I don't know if it's a good idea that you even come, but it seems stupid that you're not coming. And what am I supposed to do? Even for those very healthy people, like long-term anonymous patron and YouTube member from Delaware, she knows the thing. That's the second thing I'll say is that she's doing way better than average. She's doing a near perfect job of being a supportive and well-rounded spouse. It doesn't take away the depression and her effects of it, but the attitude that she has, the knowledge, the perspective, the behavior, she's doing great. She's supportive. It doesn't sound, judgmental the way it typically is. So it's tough. And anyone who claims that they have an answer to this is lying and trying to sell you something, because this is one of those problems in society that, of course, everyone kind of knows, but I think, is under the radar because it doesn't usually produce flashy news titles, like he's a narcissist or something. It's just this slog through the viscous mud of depression and just trying to survive day by day. It's really, really hard. Even when you do manage to pull out of it, it's often not completely gone, and it often returns. Depression is the worst, and I feel really bad for what you're going through, patron, and I feel equally bad for your spouse. It's hard. And there's not a lot of sympathy from the world because people are, one, either just stigmatizing of depression in general, like you're just being lazy, or two, they just don't understand just how rough it is and how it is literally impossible for a depressed person to do simple tasks. The way that I've dealt with it when it's been close to me, because I don't get depressed and I don't have that inclination, is I have to think of it as a disability. It's as if they were unable to move. They just can't manage to get that task done. It's just not possible. It's physically possible, quote unquote, but it's not actually mentally possible. And it's hard for people to understand that, right? The closest thing that I can think of is like when you're really sick and you have the flu. Like for me, when I had COVID, it was physically possible for me to get up and go to the bathroom, or get up and leave my bedroom, or even just get out of bed. It was totally physically possible, but it was virtually impossible because of the way it felt, and also just the complete lack of motivation that I had. Physically I could get up and I would be in pain, but it wasn't like excruciating. But just the mental hurdles that I would have to overcome to move every muscle and every step, I would just have to, so I would lay in bed having to go pee. I contemplated just peeing in the bed just because I just didn't want to get up. I was, how much does a new mattress cost? I don't know. I mean, I did eventually get up, but it was, I had a really bad case of COVID.
Yeah.
So that's not the same thing, but it's, akin. And just imagine just having that every day. So my thoughts about what Bob just sneezed.
Gross.
Would you like a?
Yeah, if you got one.
So I like to leave in sneezes because I think it is interesting to hear the different kind of sneezes that people have.
No, God bless you. Golly.
You had a classic, really satisfying sneeze.
Oh yeah,
you didn't like plug your nose or anything.
No, do people do that? I think your ears will pop, right?
There are rare cases where people have an aneurysm and die because of the pressure buildup.
So they try to curtail a sneeze or squeeze one out and squeeze it down, and their brain pops.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very rare,
Sure,
but I
so.
think there are minor side effects that can happen over time. And really, the reason, there's a certain profile of person that does that, and it's usually a woman who has been socialized not to take up space, and to deny their needs. So my thoughts to you, patron, is to, one, continue doing what you're doing because you're doing far better than others. And if there's an approach that is going to help him, then you're doing it. The other thing I'll say is to have other relationships, because if you don't, or you don't have enough, then it becomes hard to cope because you're not getting your needs met. Is one way to look at it. That's what Bob was kind of getting at, which is that you are having needs for closeness and conversation and mutual energy level, if you will, and you're not getting it from him. And so having other relationships would help. Might these other relationships make your husband feel bad? Maybe, but it's also possible it'll make him feel better because he'll feel happy that you're getting your needs met, and he feels less pressure to do so. Unknown, but that's something to do. Also, you very much have a great perspective and attitude, but there's still some room for growth. I don't think you fully understand that it's out of his control. I think you still believe that he has some control. I think consciously the sentences that you say in your mind and out loud is that it's not under his control, but there's a significant part of you that still operates from that assumption. Because the things that you say, I want to hold him accountable. Well, that implies that he is choosing something. He's not choosing anything. Now, which brings me to another thing to think about, is that you identify your overfunctioning and you're good about acknowledging that. I don't know where you're at with that, but your email has a lot of indications of that. You're saying that you're refraining from overfunctioning because you have an urge to have a spreadsheet, but you're not going to do that. And that's good. But the more subtle overfunctioning that you're engaging in, you might not be identifying it as such. Anybody who gets around someone who's depressed will have moments of overfunctioning, even if you take someone who's never been codependent, never been overfunctioning. You get them married to someone who has chronic depression. By contrast and by concern, you will just start looking at that person and having thoughts like, you should be doing something. Remember what the doctor said? How come you're not, doing what you did last month, where you pushed past? Last month you said it wasn't easy to get up and go for that walk, but you did it anyway. How come you're not doing that now? It's totally normal to have those thoughts. Having said that, there's some language in your email that points to overfunctioning that I was detecting, and then you admitted that you do have that tendency, which leads to another possibility. Bob was getting at couple therapy, in that there's a possibility that regardless of the depression, that's real, the depression's real, but regardless of that, if he wasn't depressed, he might underfunction just independent of depression. Because you can have both. You can be both an underfunctioner, independent of depression, and also be depressed. There can be overlap, of course, but so it's possible that the two of you were attracted to each other because of this complementary relationship. And it's possible that his underfunctioning actually is involved in his in the perpetuation of his depression. It's not a cause, but from the sound of it, but it could be contributing. And whenever you have an overfunctioning, underfunctioning dynamic, either side can change that dynamic, and there will be pushback from the other side often. So from your side, what you have control over, anonymous patron, is to do everything in your power to, one, refrain from overfunctioning even in your mind, and two, recover from the traumas that you have, maybe even in your marriage, in addition, but particularly when you were growing up, that give you the schemas that it's your responsibility to fix people. That's the schema of the codependent. And Stacy just reran all the codependency episodes, so maybe you listened to those recently, anonymous. But you emailed in before that those episodes aired, I think, anyway. So, and I'll tell you that codependency and overfunctioning is one of the hardest things to change. As a therapist that specializes in this work, I have worked with clients who are completely on board, just like you would be, anonymous patron, and yet it can take years and years of very frustrating effort to dismantle the urge, because it comes from a place of panic. Overfunctioning comes from a place of just utter terror. And when you're in therapy, you can say, "Yeah, I'm not gonna engage in those thought processes where I'm going to obsess about my spouse's lack of attending to his depression. I understand that that's his, and there's me over here, and and I'm going to, when I have that urge, I'm going to reach out to my friends and just try to get my mind away from it, because it doesn't do any good to focus on him. He knows all the things, and he's on a path. And so I'm going to do this. And yet in the moment, the terror and the mandate that was given to you, often because you were parentified at a young age, that this is only your job. Nobody else in the world is going to fix this. It is your responsibility, and your worth as a human being is because you are attending to this, and you are worthless if you don't. It's really hard to change, and the overfunctioner is often right. So it's hard to argue against it, right? If she's saying, "Hey, it would help if you had a better attitude. It would help if you went exercising, even if it's just 15 minutes. It would help if you had a better sleeping schedule. It would help if you stopped smoking weed every night." These are true statements. So it's hard in one's mind when you're in the thick of it to overcome that. And as I go over in the codependency deep dive, if the overfunctioner doesn't make up for the deficits in the underfunctioner can experience some really bad consequences, right? Like the depression could get worse if she doesn't put subtle pressure, or suicide could happen. I mean, that's a legit concern in situations like this. So, so all that is like real and reality, and yet the prescription is to disentangle yourself, but also to recover from the trauma. Like the words that you use are, I want to hold him accountable for his inaction towards his goals in life. And that's the trick that your codependency is playing on you, is you're saying, look, I'm only just helping him with his goals.
Yeah.
But that's the key, his goals.
Right. The shadow.
It's not your job to micromanage his work on his goals. Plus, we all have goals that we don't work on constantly, whether it's losing weight or exercising all the time or saving money. There's not a single person who makes a goal like that and does every behavior in line with that goal. The reason why we came up with the goal is because we struggle with, impulses in the opposite direction.
Oh, yeah, right. Good call.
And having said all that, I just want to reiterate, there's just tons of evidence that you're on the right path regarding your perspective and your behavior towards him.
Right.
You say that when he's frustrating, you just hold him. So if I were to metaphorize it, there's still this bastion of codependency that's like holding on for dear life in the corner of your mind, and it's that last little bit that needs to be like soothed. Is the word I'd put to it. Just go to it and say, it's okay. Another element, and this will be the last thing I'll say, is that it's a grieving process. I don't like the phrase to let go, but I'll use it. Letting go of the hope or of the assumption or of the effort to fix him is potentially a grieving process.
For sure.
Like one. What do you mean?
Oh, you're talking about acceptance.
Yeah.
This is my life. It could be like this for the rest of my life, or for the rest of this relationship. This is my life, and let go of change, which is a paradoxically very effective change strategy. Yeah. Anyways, I'm with you. Oh yeah. Well, anyways, John Kabat-Zinn, that I can't believe I'm doing this. That book, Full Catastrophe Living. I hate it when I'm read it if you want to. They say it's good. I didn't read it. Right?
Well, why are you apologizing? Because I think I know why.
Because when we were in graduate school, oh my God, it was like swimming with sharks with the other, students in the case consultation, the supervision class that everybody takes. Right. And every time anybody talks about a case and they're, saying what's going on with it, someone would be just there saying, hey, have you read this book? And, of course not. Like, there's a zillion books. I didn't read any of them. I mean, I read the ones we had to read, but no, I didn't read the fucking book. And here he is, 25 years later, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying,
another aspect is that there's a handful of books, this one included, that are just constantly being referenced, and for good reason.
For good reason, yeah. I mean, acceptance is a really good strategy or a good, tack to take.
I mean, I have that book on my shelf. You
have Full Catastrophe Living.
Yeah, I mean, well, so a lot of my books actually are hand-me-downs from professors. So,
right on.
There was a period of time 5 to 10 years ago at Antioch. So, in a nutshell, when I started being a professor at Antioch, there was a cohort of professors that were basically all the same age. I guess we would call them boomers,
Oh, yeah.
They were all born in the 40s and around there, right? And then I'm a Gen X, and I'm 25, 30 years younger than all of them. And that's why Rebecca and I became friends, because we're the same age, and we were not only just considered young, but like children compared. And I'd be working there for 15 years and people would think I was still new. and I felt new.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd been working there for 15 years, and I felt like I was the new guy because there were people that had, like Paul and Ned and Gwen and all those people.
Yeah.
They were my teacher, our teachers when we were in graduate school in the 90s. And by then they'd already been there for 20 years by that point. And so when they all retired and the university was growing, we had to hire basically a brand new batch of professors. And the way that we did that was the more typical way that universities hire these days, which is to put out a national call. And the people that will apply are people that don't have an established career yet and are okay with moving across the country for a job. Well, those are younger people, and they're more fresher out of university. Also, fresh people out of university in marriage and family therapy anyway tend to be more academically oriented, and their resume looks better. Like a lot of the people that we were looking at had much better resumes than I would have, because they came up in a system that was oriented towards that. I just fell into being a professor. These people were making the moves early on in their sort of academic career anyway. And so when we hired all these new professors, suddenly I was the old guy, But as all those older professors were retiring, and this is back in the old building when everyone had their own office. We don't have our own office anymore, but all the professors had their own office back before. And of course, in those offices, there would be bookshelves, and there would be this curated book collection that the professor had been slowly accumulating over 40 years of career. Right. So as they would, on their final day or week, they would just put their books on a table and say, whoever wants any of these. And so I'm getting chills thinking about it, because it was just this amazing time to peruse the knowledge base of these figures at Antioch, and to take it for myself, to adopt it and to carry that legacy and to benefit from that. Because, these books are expensive. Yeah. And of course, Full Catastrophe Living was one of those books. Probably multiple professors had that on their shelf. But another aspect to this, just while I'm on the topic, is that there are books that people don't popularly point to as important, but were on these folks' shelves. Older books by figures that, like Gregory Bateson and Jay Haley and Virginia Satir and, these kinds of people that a lot of, even psychology students today have never even really heard of, but were central to the field of therapy and to systems theory for people coming up in the 60s and 70s. Anyway, a lot of humanistic stuff. So yeah, so you were saying about Full Catastrophe Living and about radical acceptance. Did you finish your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did.
Well, how would she accept it really, though? What would that feel like, given what she's saying in her email, do you think?
Oh, it would feel terrible. So it would be to kill hope that this will ever be different.
Yeah.
Or better way to say it is, this is what I got now.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence that it'll be different tomorrow or the next day. And this is my life, which is awful, painful, grieving, as you said, piss you off, frustrate, scare the shit out of us when we say, this is my life. Right. This is my life. Though be careful with radical acceptance. You don't want to accept predictions. There's no evidence that my life will be different tomorrow. That is true.
Another way to put it is there's a good chance that for the foreseeable future that my life will be exactly as it is now.
If I had to take bets, I'd say I'm not betting on it being much different.
Regardless of what I do?
Yep. Doesn't matter what I do.
Right.
Right. And so...
and that's all I have control over is what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about it is the paradox that comes with it, which is when I radically accept something, new possibilities that would emerge for me suddenly do. And I always think about the old, you ever heard that one about the raccoon and the walnut?
No.
You get a box and you build a box and you drill it, you put a walnut inside, and then you drill a hole that's big enough for a raccoon to get their paw in, but not big enough to get the walnut out, right? And you just watch and see. And if I'm a raccoon, I might really want that walnut. I might really, really want that walnut. I might try everything I can think of, which of course the person who wrote in probably has, tried everything that they can think of to get it to be different. And after a while, I'm not getting it out. And I'd have to, the thing is do I want the walnut or do I want to eat? If I want to eat, then what I have to do is I have to let go of the damn walnut. And there's no guarantee that there's food somewhere else. I got to go hunt, and I might come up zeros. It is very hard for us to let go. So the raccoon, the story is, I don't think this is really true, but the story is the raccoon will stay there stuck to the box, at which point you can come up and trap it, right? Because attachment is really strong. And not attachment in attachment theory.
Attached to outcome.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this Rumi poem we saw in a film last week for the person who wrote in from Delaware. Let's see. Out beyond right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there.
You're crying.
Yeah, it's
What does this do to you?
Well, I can relate to the struggle that the person in Delaware has.
You can relate.
Yeah, I think all of us can. We have a partner who is who they are, and they aren't who we want them to be or who we think they should be. And there are ways in which we suffer because we're attached to them being different. But this is my partner. And sometimes I think about that. And it's Colleen. She's lovely. And the ways in which she struggles and the way in which I struggle, I'm sure she could, she could probably tell stories about how difficult it is to be with me. I think I'd say, though, between the two of us, she probably has an easier time accepting me as I am than the other way around. And I feel bad about the disservice I do her. And,
By not accepting?
Yeah, the times when I don't, because lots of times I do, right? I learned that from you. I got a lot of training in acceptance, like Marsha Linehan. That's 50% of her bailiwick is practicing acceptance, which, sort of distinguishes her, at least from the old school CBT therapists, so not the good ones, because anyways, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to really accepting, that I watched and learned from you.
From what?
From just things that you would tell me about how your life is going and what's happening in your world. And
in my marriage.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and I'd watch, and sometimes I'd feel like shocked.
Yeah, it's interesting that I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but it's not easy for me. But in brief, what I'll say is that there are times, if you're close enough as friends, you're gonna complain about your spouses. That's just what's just gonna happen.
I've never done that, but I read about it in a book.
Yeah. I hope that all of my wife's good friends get a good amount of my wife complaining about me. We all, where else are you going to do it, And when we get together, that will be, maybe 10% of what we talk about. There's a pattern of, it's not all the time, but there's a common enough groove in our pattern of me complaining about Stacy to you, where it's familiar as it's happening, but I've never verbalized it or said it to you, that you're very supportive, like a very good listener and a very supportive person. So as I'm complaining, you're not skeptical of what I'm saying. You're not pushing back on anything I'm saying. You're not generally saying like, well, Kirk, maybe you're contributing. Like you're just fully supportive and validating. And that helps me to feel that relief, such that in the midst of having that little bit, I can take a breath and differentiate and look at myself. And so,
which is generally what you end up doing.
Right. And so mostly because my parents treated me well. So as I'm going through that, I get that satisfaction, that sort of catharsis, if you will, the validation. Then I can relax. And as I'm talking, I will say, well, you know what? I'm realizing now that I was at least as much of a dick, if not more, because I did X, Y, and Z. And two, on the scale of things, if differentiating from our relationship and looking at it as a whole, this is. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one, and she's wrong. But there's countless things that I'm wrong on, and you can't have perfection in relationships or in a human being, Lo and behold, there's a human being like my wife who hasn't completely shed all of her childhood schemas. How strange is that, And all of her perceptions are not completely rational. Like none of us are like that. The other thing that you and I will often say to each other is, our wives aren't dedicating their entire career and soul to the understanding of the human condition. They're just they have regular lives, and they only encounter the opportunity to talk about or think about this shit because we're forcing them to, because we're therapists, and this is what we think about all the time, and we see the cracks. It's sort of like a contractor can see the problems in the foundation or in the door jamb or something, where most people are just like, I don't really care. Yeah. Whereas you and me are just like, but there's a better way, and sometimes we can use that as a weapon unfairly. Right?
Be careful.
Yeah.
Do not do that to people. That just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, though, particularly early career therapists. But
guilty.
But and as I do that, in our conversations, I notice sometimes that you will say, "Huh." Like it sort of surprises you to some extent that I'm saying, well, on the scale of things, it's not that bad, and I accept that she's not obsessed with attachment theory like the way I am, and I know that she loves me, even though, at least in this moment, I feel like I was mistreated in that moment and will probably be mistreated in that way for the rest of our relationship. And that acceptance, I either accept this or I'm alone. So, not that I'm accepting a bad thing, I'm just accepting humanity and the way the universe works.
Right. Like the person that wrote in, their husband is not depression incarnate. Right. That's just a human that has depression, but that does not define their everything. Right. So, yeah.
And the final thing I'll say is that, and I've done this with couples, and couples therapy would be good. Yeah. I think for the overfunctioning, underfunctioning thing, or just to get things off one's chest, and he probably has things that he wants to off his chest. But also, you could talk about ways in which you, anonymous patron, can enter his world.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to pull him into your world,
right.
When he's depressed, what does he like to do? I mean, there's something he even if it's just stare at the ceiling. I once had a client who had chronic depression, and he would lay in bed in the dark and listen to loud music. And he didn't love his life, but that's what he wanted to do in the moment. And so along those lines, and so what I would do as a therapist, because I was doing in-home therapy at the time with this client, so I'm outside of his bedroom, and doing all the things that I would normally do. None of it was working, and so finally I just went into his room and laid on the ground on the rug, and we just both listened to like loud metal music together, and that was my first sort of semi foray into, building rapport with him. And I had to give up a lot of things to do that, a lot of my assumptions or hopes or thoughts about what would really help. And right. Side note, the first time I saw raccoons, they always say like opposable thumbs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, they're trippy.
I didn't we grow up with the notion that like humans and chimps are the only ones with opposable thumbs?
Yeah.
Not true. Raccoons have fully articulate hands and opposable thumbs. They're like little monkeys.
We have one that's coming into my yard for the last couple weeks. We call him Bandit now. And he gets eggs. He gets peanut butter on a King's Hawaiian roll. So good. Banana. Like, he gets a lot of good treats.
And you see them grab it with their hands.
And hold it. And what he does is he'll hold it with his hands and he'll take a bite and then he'll look around to see, who's looking at him. And then he'll take another bite. And he just keeps scanning the world while he picks up food off the ground without even looking and then
they pick it up without looking.
It's trippy.
Yeah. The first time I saw this was I put out Cheez-Its for a raccoon. And on a table outside, and the raccoon was reaching up without looking and just sort of searching and I remember just completely tripping because I'd seen raccoons my whole life. They're notoriously brave. They'll just walk right up to your back porch window and sliding glass door and just look in and they normal animals, if you will make an aggressive gesture, they run off, but raccoons are like, thanks. So opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
It's pretty trippy.
Anyway,
let's take a break. We get back. Another email. What do you say?
Yep.
All right, we're back from the break. Let's do an OPP, Bob.
Okay.
So I think I finished with 2021, if I'm not mistaken, all of the patrons who are still patrons having become patrons in 2021.
Yeah.
Before going to 2022, I just wanted to go back kind of to the beginning because there are people that have been patrons since 2015.
Wow.
And are still patrons. There's maybe 10 people who became a patron in 2015 and are still patrons.
Amazing.
And I don't know, it just feels like it'll be a while before I'll be able to go back to this. So I wanted to name these folks. So the first person I want to name is Lyndon, famous patron Lyndon from Dublin, Ireland.
Wow.
He is an upper tier patron and has been so since the very beginning. And I think Lyndon might have even suggested I start Patreon to begin with.
Wow.
Because I hadn't heard of it before. And Lyndon was always not only a really great fan of the podcast, but also a good friend and was active in helping us learn how to use the internet. I think he also suggested we start a fan page, and in the beginning he took over the fan page, and so he's sort of an unofficial member of the podcast. And when we had our first live show, he flew out from Ireland and we gave him an award as I got him this big trophy thing. One of those kind of like golf trophy things. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so it's just amazing that Lyndon has been a patron ever since the beginning, and to my memory, might have even been the person that gave me the idea. And also Liz from Ferndale, Michigan. Liz also has been a patron from the very beginning, and Liz also I met at the first live show in 2018.
Wow.
And she's also an upper tier patron. And then the following are patrons. We have Michelle from Apollo, Pennsylvania. Do you know where Apollo, Pennsylvania is? We have Kim from Huntingdon, Great Britain. William from Kensington, Maryland. Holly from Grapeview, Washington. Do you know where Grapeview is?
Is that up by Concrete?
No, it is out by, it's on it's across the Narrows Bridge.
Right,
Tacoma Narrows.
right.
So in my
think
head, it's by Port Orchard and stuff, but I'm sure it's not very close to Port Orchard.
Yeah. So there's a lot of land
Out
over there.
there, Hood Canal area, whatever.
Yeah, the
but
wilderness.
it's a very, very small town.
I think I've been through it.
Like I bet you it has like a population of a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Population. Typing it in, less than 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So Holly is one of those people, and by definition, I think I just doxed her.
What does that mean, docs?
I just identified where she. It wouldn't be hard to find her house.
Oh, right.
Because if you only have 1,000 people and there's one person named Holly, but I'm sure.
Well, there's actually I checked. There's 500 of them.
There's 500 Hollies.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good luck, everybody.
Good luck. Jody from Seattle.
Oh.
O'Donnell from Shoreline, who is a friend of mine and also a former student.
Wow.
And she was on the podcast a long time ago. And, of course, my mom from Bellingham, Washington. She listens to every episode.
Trippy.
Or at least most episodes.
Oh, she wished me a happy birthday. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, because she heard it on the podcast or something. Lewis from Rochester Hills, Michigan, Veronica from God knows where, and Lily from Oregon. Wow. So all those people became patrons 9 years ago and are still patrons.
That's trippy.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to do, Bob, is give you, so someone sent in a birthday card.
Oh.
And by sending it to the address that is on our web page, if you go down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see our mailing address. And Bob was sent a fun card. Oh, wait, don't dump it over because there's glitter.
Oh golly, I'm leaving sequins everywhere. I'll be careful. God, it's coming out.
Don't worry about it. It's not the sort of glitter that is hard to get out. It's like sequins and stuff. But that's the joke, I think, is that when you open the card, it's supposed to explode in a bunch of sequins.
Glad I'm doing it at your house.
So who's it from? Just say the first name. Say the first name.
Rochelle?
Rochelle?
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a letter there to you, Bob.
Yeah.
And you can read that later, but that's really sweet.
Thank you.
I also got you some more merch.
Oh.
Got you a couple shirts.
Wow.
So I got a Everybody Loves Bob shirt.
Thank you.
And a Take Care of Yourself Because You Deserve It shirt.
Oh, thank you.
You can get those on our website and there's a link somewhere in the description of the podcast. I don't know.
My brother Danny was in town last week, and he's like, he started listening to the podcast, and he'd seen this shirt, so I gave him mine. So
cool.
Yeah. So now my brother has a Everybody Loves Me shirt.
And I also got you a variety pack.
Oh, Tony's
of Tony's Chocolonis.
Right.
And so Stacy or me,
thank you,
bought 2 of those bags.
Yeah.
And I opened one and ate that bag in a couple days.
Yeah.
And I kept that one. So I ate half of your gift, but it's a fun one because you can just pop one in and it has the 6 different flavors.
Yeah. Which is your favorite?
Yeah. And this podcast is now like the official, sort of unofficial sponsor is this chocolate.
Did you read the comments today?
No.
Oh, there were like 5 or 6 people who were like, Tony's is the best. And one person said you should look up Choco Lonely and how it came to be, like the name came to be.
Oh, well, let's look it up.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to ask ChatGPT, why did Tony Choco Lonely be named that? Let's see if AI can figure it out. Popular Dutch chocolate brand was named with a specific mission and origin story in mind. The name is derived from the company's founder, Toon van de Keuken, a Dutch journalist who invested in chocolate industry practices. Toon or Toyn, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, is the Dutch equivalent of Tony. Oh. And Choco Lonely reflects his feeling of being lonely in his mission to expose and combat child labor and exploitation in the chocolate industry. That is weird.
Wow.
That's a strange mission. There seems to be something lost in translation. So Tony, his name is, I guess anglicized as Tony.
Right.
And he's chocolonely because he feels lonely in his mission to expose and combat child labor and exploitation. I mean, it's a great mission. That's great.
It's so specific.
Yeah. He started the company after discovering the widespread use of child labor and slavery in the cocoa supply chain. He aimed to create chocolate brand that would be both delicious and ethical, ensuring that its production process was free of exploitation. Oh, well, that's great.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Okay. So I also wanted to, while we're on the topic, just read a couple of the submissions that I printed out and put on your. For those that don't follow on Instagram or Facebook or anything, a couple episodes ago I gave you like a mobile of all the submissions that people sent in, wishing you a happy birthday and saying a lot of nice things, and making it so that I didn't just forward you these emails or something. You actually have them physically to look at, and it's hung on a door.
On my door in my office.
In your office.
Yeah.
And they're all on different colored cards, so it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And you said that you and Colleen spent some time. What was that like for her to read them?
Oh yeah, no, we took a whole string. We took them off, and I opened my little split of champagne, and we had a little drink, and we read them one by one to one another, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. So I thought I'd read a couple just to reiterate what some of these people were, because there were themes. What were the themes that you heard people telling you?
Some therapists who said I had helped them become better therapists. Some people who had said that my example of openness about my troubles in life and my experiences was helpful to them, and mostly those two themes.
Yeah. So a couple entries here. Bob, you have no idea how much hope you have given me for my own future. You inspire me to keep moving down the road towards a happier life, even if it takes me my whole life, one step at a time. Happy birthday. I hope you get lots of tinkering time to celebrate.
Thank you.
Another one. Bob, there's no one in the world that makes me feel the way you do. I feel so seen and heard, and I feel human. Hearing you and Kirk talk has been the corrective experience I needed. Thank you for all of this.
Wow.
You are a good human being, and you deserve the best in the world. You are kind, gentle, vulnerable, and beautiful. Thank you for being that in this world. You have helped me stay alive. I know all of it is difficult, but you are doing your best. Love you, Bob.
Thank you.
Hope you have a nice day and a nice year, and when times are tough, I hope you find something similar to what I've found in you. Love you, Bob. Love you, Bob. Love you too, Kirk.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so there were dozens of others with very, very similar sentiments, and the specificity of a lot of the submissions shows how much people know you, how well they know you, and how much they're listening, and how affected they are by you. They didn't have to go back and listen to episodes to kind of drum up details. Like these details about you and their feelings about you are just right below the surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That says something.
It does.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my hope is, and I think, and there were submissions along these lines, that it doesn't, these sentiments aren't, which, you put effort into by letting it be absorbed, but, you deserve to have these messages affect you in a positive way, and you deserve to, as best as you can, know that these are sincere and real and based on reality and not some persona that you present. Like, this is seeing through the persona, these are sentiments of people that see you the way that I would frame it, to your very core. It's not like they love a version of you, You know, it's the you. You know, it is a version of you in a sense. You know, Colleen knows, you know, a more well-rounded, I suppose, variable version of you, but you're not faking it when you're on this thing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
I hope that you can absorb it. You deserve to feel as good as people think you should feel.
You know what tinnitus is? Tinnitus?
Mm-hmm.
I have that, though most of the time I don't notice it, don't hear it.
So it's a tone in one's ear that's constantly.
Yeah, constantly, yeah. So every Tuesday at 9 a.m. I go to therapy, and, you know, inevitably he asks me some question like, do you want to be here, and do you want us to pay attention to you? He usually says things like with an attitude of interest and care. It's a good way to start a session. It usually makes me uncomfortable. And what I notice is how easy it is to forget and to slip back into like schemas, like patterns of interacting or seeing the world or being in it. And about 10 minutes ago, something happened and I started to relax. And when I relax, I hear the tinnitus. I hear it. Otherwise, I don't really notice it.
Is that because you're coming into your body and noticing what's happening?
Yeah.
It's not that the tinnitus just starts suddenly. It's just that you are able to be here and now and notice that you're experiencing something.
Right. Yeah, exactly that. And that's the last 10 minutes. I can feel my whole body just relax a little bit. And sorry.
No, that was me. I kicked your foot.
Oh, well, knock it off. And what's striking to me about it is that I do not notice feeling tense until I don't feel tense, which for me is pretty rare. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the question, and I think this is true for everybody, really, but particularly for people who are made to feel chronically in danger, you know, the pathway to here and now, to being ourselves, to our needs, to our sensations, to ourselves, I think is a constant struggle, and it begins with a question of, you know, where am I? That's why there's always that question, you know, of where are you? What are you feeling right now?
Right.
Noticing the temperature of my feet isn't integral in me knowing who I am, but it forces me to focus my attention on something that will lead me to who I am and what I feel and my emotions. You know,
Nicely put. Yes. And
it's hard to do, you know, because I also feel like the older you get, the more obligations you have or something, you know. I feel like when I was younger, even in my 20s, there would be just blank spots of time where there just wasn't any obligation that I felt anyway. I think our standards get higher as we get older.
Oh, yeah, I think mine have, yeah.
Yeah, like our house has to be a certain way, or our finances have to be a certain way, or the organization of our drawers has to be in a certain way. I don't know. It just, there's an ever increasing standard of, I don't know, of all the details of life that I think interfere with being in the now and being ourselves and noticing what we need.
Right.
You know, because in the daily grind, it's just like you get up, okay, I got to do this because, you know, this is coming up. Okay, you got to make sure, I got to prep for that thing and I got to make sure that happens. Okay, I got to make sure I remember that. And later today, there's that one thing and, you know, okay, I got to keep my eye on that. You know, it's just and then you go to bed and then you wake up and this, you know, just happens over and over again.
Yeah, right.
Even if your life is relatively simple, you know. If you have 5 kids, it's like, what are you going to do?
Oh, yeah, right.
But even for you and me, who are, you know, we just live with our wives and are self-employed, work from home, yet there's just just a stupid amount of obligations. And it was one of the things that I realized recently was this, which is that I have such a high level of expectation regarding the house and how everything has to be perfect, that there's always something to do, right? There's always something that's out of whack. Like, oh, there's that. Like I have this storage area, and it had some mold in it last year that freaked me out because, mold building.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. And it was mostly because I had a water container that had, well, it was entirely because I had a water container that had sprung a leak and I just hadn't noticed it. But I started to obsess on the humidity level because the storage room is so airtight. There's hardly any air circulation. Plus, Seattle is a fairly moist place, fairly high humidity place. That certain areas of your house you have to be careful about because mold can start building. So I got this dehumidifier, which helps, but there's no way to drain. So I have to constantly go in there and like empty the container of water. You know what I mean? An easier way to do this is if I drill a hole through the wall to the outside and drain the water through a tube, And I don't know how to drill a hole through a wall. I mean, I know how to do it in my head. You get one of those long drill hole things. And I imagine that you want to go at some sort of a downward angle so that it for gravity
makes sense. Yeah,
and use some sort of silicon sealants on to make sure that bugs and other things don't get in. You're going to get a little bit of insulation kind of caught up in the deal, but it's probably not impossible. But it would involve a little bit of work. I'd probably screw it up somehow, and then I'd have to make up for it later on. And this will like occupy my brain. I'll be like, okay, so what? Okay, I gotta do that. And there's dozens of other things that are just like this.
Right? Yeah, gotcha.
If I just say to myself, "Fuck it," if mold builds, who gives it? It's probably not going to happen. And I'm now kind of diligent about checking to make sure I'll probably catch it. Plus, there's a dehumidifier. Plus, I'm not spilling water anymore. Let it go. Like, stop adding more shit to your plate so that you are denied access to who you are and what you feel and what you need, like it's just and I feel like this is the American dream, of I want to get to a place where I'm constantly dealing with this kind of bullshit, you know what I mean?
I do.
Do you have this too? I could see you going either way. I could see you being devoid of this kind of stuff, but I could also see you having some of it.
No, I do. I have some of it, though. Lately, you use Ridwell, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I like Ridwell.
Yeah, this is a recycling service. I don't know if it's all over the country. But
I don't think so.
It recycles things that don't go in the recycling bin.
Right.
Things like batteries and other kind of stuff.
Right. Light bulbs. A lot of plastic.
Certain kind of plastics, that can't go in the recycling bin.
Right. So I'm pretty diligent I'm very glad to use Ridwell because there's a lot of plastic. Like our garbage is so much more plastic than it used to be because we would do recycling here, though, city recycling suspect. Anyways, yesterday I got my Dremel out and took the top off a whipped cream canister. Those. Yeah. Because it's just a piece of steel and it's completely recyclable. And usually we throw those away. And but I popped the top off.
So the container is maybe aluminum?
No, it's steel.
The whole container is steel?
Yeah.
Oh, you were popping off the plastic.
Yeah, I wanted to get the plastic off, and to do that, I couldn't just pull out the plastic bits. I had to
cut it out,
cut the top off, and then
So they make it out of steel because it's under that much pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was empty, and I cut the top off, and then rinsed it out and stuck it in my metal recycling box, which I keep in my garage, which is getting full of little metal bits, and I seem to be very meticulous about recycling now. So like we'll get a piece of plastic that's got a paper label on it, and it's recyclable, but they can't do anything with the paper. So I just get a pair of scissors out and I cut off all the stuff that's got paper attached to it. And then the part that's thrown away into the garbage, nothing's thrown away. The part that goes put in the garbage is as minimal as I can make it. And we're maximizing. And I'll spend time, probably up to an hour a week, maybe a little less, just taking care of little things like that. And I used to feel restless. So like we'll get a box, and those boxes, sometimes they have those metal staples to hold them shut instead of glue or whatever. And I just take my time and pull off all the staples and stick those in the metal thing, and then recycle the cardboard. And I used to feel irritated and impatient about it, and sometimes be like, fuck it, I'm not going to do that today. It's good enough, blah, blah, blah. And now I just do it. And I feel like it's very meticulous, but it's time well spent, because this planet is fucked. Mm. And there's something I can do about it. So my big project these days is making my house, reducing its carbon footprint as best I can. So the solar panels are fantastic. Mm-hmm. The heating system is becoming more green because, we're using the water, which, by the way, I turned it on yesterday because I had to fiddle with it. It's uncomfortably hot in my bathroom right now at times because it works so damn well. I'm just like...
Well, it's also the middle of the summer right now. So.
Also the middle of the summer, and that's a great point. It's a great point.
Because there are times in the winter when I'll be blasting the heat, and that's only getting me up to just normal.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, you should come to my house, because I think this winter we might have the kitchen done too, and it'll have the same piping. And I know that I know that what I know is that is better for the world.
So are you saying that the perspective and attitude and approach of the same activity changes it from I'm not in my body to I am in my body?
Yeah, and that's new for me. But then the other thing I was thinking is, you do your marbles. It's one a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my death rocks.
That keeps you awake. I mean, you're pretty awake anyways, in that you spend your time in the things that matter to you, and you skip all the shit that you don't want to do for the most part, except for maybe, humidity in your storage unit.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a number of other things, but yeah, I generally am in touch with my needs and notice them and act on them.
And so when you come to the end of your days, it's very unlikely that you'll look back and have a string of regrets,
right,
and things that you wish you hadn't done. In fact, probably none.
It's rare that that'll happen.
Yeah. So that's a good way to live, because the thing is, even with this planet, in 3 billion years, no, is it 5 billion? 3 or 5 billion years, the sun is going to expand, and it's going to get so big that it's going to burn away the atmosphere on this planet, and maybe take this planet with it. This planet is a little speck when it comes to the sun, but the sun is a little speck when it comes to the size of other things in the universe. It's just weird. It's unbelievably weird. It's all for naught. It's all going to be annihilated. Everything is going to be annihilated, including plastic. In the meantime, though, we are here, and so being a good steward is, to me, a important value. Not for me, but for the generations of creatures, not just the humans that are to come. And the current ones too. Like, I like the raccoon. I know there's too many people, and raccoons are getting squeezed, and other critters, coyotes, are getting squeezed, bears.
So how do you know when you're recycling that you're in your body and meeting your needs?
Because I don't feel anxious, like I'm wasting my time. I feel like I'm actually, this is purposeful for me. And it is meticulous. It's like very minute stuff that most people, I'll just recycle it. They call it wish cycling, when you think, it's probably recyclable, but it isn't, and you haven't really. So I keep that to a minimum, and I actually feel like it's a good use of my time to take care of even little things. So I drop a screw on the ground, a little screw from something I'm taking apart, because I can reduce it to its components and then recycle it more efficiently. And it'll be the screw, and it's a tiny screw, and it's on my garage floor. I'll take some time to figure out where the hell it is and grab it up. And
yeah, that's interesting. When I think about the humidity hole, if you will,
Yeah.
that I want to drill. And to be clear, that's not that big of a project. It's just an example of like dozens of others that once I finish, there will be dozens of new ones that will plague me.
Right.
And I feel like that's what a lot of people do when they get older and they start to nest more and dial in their home the way that they want it.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Yeah. When we were young.
Yeah. Or even just kind of recently for me and Stacy, different houses we were in, I just had a different attitude. Now that we're in this house and both work from home, it just feels like a lot of my time is spent like, oh, there's that one thing I want to change. Mm-hmm. And just being mindful of what my mind is doing. And sure, it could be on a list of things to do, but it's mindfulness. I've been trying every day to, when I have my cup of coffee in the morning, as I go out on my deck and I don't listen to music or I don't listen to podcasts, and I don't think about work, or at least I try not to, and I just sit there and look at the trees.
You have great view of, it's like a forest here. It's lovely.
Yeah. It's this little, this lot is so steep. Uh-huh. The grade is so steep that never had a house on it because it was so awkward to build on.
Yeah.
But given how Seattle has all these NIMBY policies around high density housing and stuff, so that every inch of Seattle is being built on now because mainly because economically it makes sense to do so. And so this house was built on a lot that for 70 years or 100 years of houses being in this neighborhood was just never even considered. And thus it's a area of Seattle that still has a lot of trees because it hasn't been developed, So yeah, I essentially live in this little mini forest in Seattle. And to be clear, there are houses all around me and I can see many of them. So I'm not like in the wilderness or anything, but for Seattle, it's just kind of nice to have trees. And I will go out there and I try to actually just try to turn off my brain and not think about anything that has to do with work or production or chores or, okay, I got to do that thing. It's just trying to return to a place where I used to have many more moments, before the pandemic, where my brain just was in the habit of doing that, where for the past 4 years, I've just been on this frantic treadmill. And so as a part of that, I think these little chores need to be dealt with in my mind. You know what I mean? It's almost like one way of looking at it is that my brain is in this habit of like preparing and trying to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can with my time. So when there's free time in my brain, it just looks for something to latch onto.
Right. Yeah, good noticing.
And I'm telling myself, like, you don't have to do that, and you don't want to do that.
Right.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's take a break. When we get back, one more email. What do you say?
Sure.
All right, we're back from the break. I just want to do another little quick OPP. These people became patrons in 2016.
Wow.
We have Stephanie from Vancouver, BC, NB from Pasco, Washington, Bailey from Ocala, Florida, Gabriel from Livermore, California, David from Australia, New South Wales, Maete from California. Maete also came to our first live show.
Wow.
And Simon from Australia, Shape-Shifting Alien from Renton, Washington, Selena from Sacramento, Swathi from Pittsburgh, Janet from Tacoma, Kate from Oakland, Maine. Kate.
Oakland,
I bet you Oakland, California was named after Oakland, because you have Portland, Oregon, I think named after Portland, Maine. I'm not sure.
Oh, interesting.
Susie from Whittier, California, Annie from Spring, Texas, Ashley from East Hampton, Mass, Hallie. Good old Hallie from Lake Stevens.
Yeah.
She has come to live shows as well and has her own podcast that I am spacing on the name, but I'm going to look it up because it'd be a dick move. I was on her podcast recently, or not recently, but a while back, and it's a good podcast. She's a social worker. Someday We'll All Be Dead is the name of the podcast.
Fantastic.
And Marie from Salem, Wisconsin, thank you so much for becoming a patron all the way back in 2016 and staying a patron this whole time. Mm-hmm. So, Bob, annual long-term patron Kevin from Bellingham, he says, Bob mentioned that his therapist used complex integration of multi-brain systems. Just chiming in. Did you say that?
I did.
Okay. I'm curious what Bob's thoughts are about it and would like to hear about his experience with it. Additionally, I'd love it if either of you knew more about it, the history, anecdotes, theory. My initial experience as a client doing complex integration of multi-brain systems was very triggering to me, where the focused care and attention of my therapist raised my anxiety to the point of fight or flight response. Nowadays, I don't find the experience nearly as threatening or unsafe, but it still challenges my sense of agency and control in the present, which is a great thing to start becoming aware of. Similar to Bob's Butler syndrome, I think that maybe one of my default run states is compliance or deference. And in complex integration of multi-brain systems, it is, through that method, it's pushing against that and it's challenging that mindset. Love you both. End of email, he writes. So what are your thoughts on that, Bob?
Yeah, wow. Fantastic. I think my therapist uses Sims as part of what he does. And to be honest, I've never read about Sims. And what I know about it, I know from just watching him. And then a good friend of mine is a Sims practitioner. And what she described to me is that and I'm sure I'm going to get this, wrong to some degree, is that it's a very close observing of the present moment, what's happening with the client in therapy, just in the here and now, as close as you can get. So moment to moment, not. So if I'm going into a schema, there might be an observation that, it looks like you're going into the schema. I wonder how that happened, and what are you feeling in your body right now? It can be very uncomfortable to be observed that closely, though. Of course, we were all born into a world where, many of us were observed exactly that closely. We were just looked at and noticed or whatever, at least for times. But somehow with the fact that maybe this is true, maybe the fact that we have a whole bunch of defenses, we're not as plain, we're not as open. What's the word I mean? Candid, transparent, as we were before we developed defenses when we were probably 18 months old. So, or probably already formed by the time we were 18 months old. So anyways, far as I can tell, is Sims is like very close observation from somebody who gives a shit and will not be judgmental, and very uncomfortable because the present. This is where Dickens got it wrong. He's like, the ghost of the future, that's the hard one. Nope, it's the ghost of the present. The present moment is always the hardest. Of course, you could argue that's the only moment we're ever in anyways. So anyways, as I understand it, a Sims practitioner is just a very good observer and reflector of what is happening in the present moment. And they follow as close as they can. Now, if one was here, they'd probably say, well, yeah, near miss, Bob. But I think that's what it is. But I don't actually know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like some form of exposure therapy that is very helpful for these kinds of complex traumas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's at least the theory. And
integrates neurobiology.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
hey,
but given what the patron is saying, does it sound like it's working, or is that your experience? Did you have that experience where it was very felt very fight or flighty in the beginning, but then got easier?
Let's see. Yes, though I never had panic, and I don't think I've acclimated to it very easily. I still, what did they call it? Did they call it a habit mind? What did Kevin call it? He had a very good name for it. whatever. At the end of his email, it was something.
Challenging mindset, challenging my mindset, Butler syndrome,
No,
my
no.
default run state of compliance.
Default run state. Yeah.
Compliance and deference.
Yeah. Fantastic phrase, Kevin. Default run state. That's us most of the time, humans. So, yeah, fantastic way to think about it. And the default run state is the default run state, ain't it? I mean, the body just, man, we get a habit. We just are automatically, we're just in it. So, but I'm glad that, Kevin, that you, that it's not as tense for you. And my guess is, I don't know if this is true, but this is probably true. I bet your therapist really likes you. I bet when you come and they get a chance to know you the way that you allow for and that you guys have developed, that is a real treat. And the thing that happens for you is, well, I'll speak for myself, is my defense against contact and connection, because that's been fraught with danger, even though my therapist is actually a very good man who means me no harm. It's really weird for me because I love my clients for the most part. And I look at them with admiration and respect and feel lucky to know them, you know. I get to see some really interesting and beautiful things at work. And I know very well the experience of being afraid that that's not the case when my therapist looks at me. So I always have this kind of weirdo double vision wherein on some level I know that he's probably having a similar experience of me. And on some other level, it's like, I feel like I'm a fucking alien on this planet and there's no way he could feel that way or something like that toward me. Even though he keeps saying, he's been saying it for 7 years now. So
So there's a part of you that believes him and a part of you that says there's no possible way.
There's just no way, yeah. And it's weird because I look at my people and they see all their, the things that come
even
up
though
for them.
from your seat, you know that it is genuine.
Oh, yeah.
And yet there's a part of you, a schema that says, well, yeah, I could have that for others, but they could never have it for me.
Right. This weirdo double standard stuff, Yeah. So, yeah.
So you say that to reassure him that the feeling, the danger is not rational.
Right. And actually
you're not actually in danger.
Right.
The therapist is caring and genuine.
Yeah.
You can trust that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And I imagine anybody that gets into Sims, that's going to attract a certain kind of therapist.
Yeah. Right.
Probably a very deep and caring one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. And everybody out there, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.